Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Garbage Time Presents the MMA Podcast. Alright, welcome back. We have a solid fight card coming up tomorrow night. Well, tomorrow afternoon. I think prelims kick off at like 1 o'clock. I think there's 11 or 12 fights on there, so it should be a pretty decent lineup. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ryan, joined by Casey. How's it going?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Not much.
How you feeling after last week's fights?
So we were actually talking before this started. There were some tough picks in this one. I don't think, aside from Matt's Holloway, I don't think I felt fully confident in any of my picks, to be honest. I think, little spoiler alert, I did pick the minus 700 favorite, Matt's Holloway.
Yeah, I mean, this week was kind of hard to decide here, but I just went with my gut, and I think I feel pretty good about my picks personally. But
all right, man. All right. So maybe this will finally be your week where you win. Maybe.
Well, we tied last week, so technically I didn't lose.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm the reigning champion, so I would keep the championship in the tie.
So let's see here. You've got 4 victories. I've got 2, and we tied once.
So I'm twice as good as you are. All right, this might be Casey's comeback week. Let's jump into it. To kick off the prelims, we have a light heavyweight fight. We got Kennedy Nzechukwu at plus 100, and Dare Jun at minus 120. So basically a coin flip on this one. Pretty even odds. What do you got for this one?
So I'm going to pronounce it Nzechukwu. It's the only way I know how to pronounce it. I'm pretty sure we butchered this name the last time we tried pronouncing it too.
Yeah.
The last time he fought, but he's 9-1. He's coming off of a 3rd round TKO win against Marquez back in June. He originally debuted back in 2017 and has actually won 4 of his first 5 fights in the UFC. He is on a 3-fight win streak, 2 of which being by TKOs. He has 6 knockouts, 3 decisions. And then on the other hand, you have Jung, who is 14-2-1, coming off of a decision win over Knight back in April. Again, originally debuted back in 2019 and has won 3 of his first 4 fights in the UFC. So both of these guys are somewhat successful so far in the UFC. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. But I ended up picking Nzechukwu on this one.
Yeah, so same. I went with Kennedy. I'm going to go for him, and I are on a first-name basis.
Oh, okay.
Both guys are decent strikers. Jun is used to being the bigger guy, so he's able to grapple with him and kind of get him on the mat just because he's so much bigger. But Kennedy is actually bigger than he is. Has a 1-inch height advantage, 4.5-inch reach advantage. So I think that will probably be one of the biggest determining factors here. So I went Kennedy as well. On DraftKings, they're pretty even odds at, I want to say like 84. Yep, 8,400 for Yaodun and 8,300 for. Oh, duh, we're not even on that one. 8,300 for Jun and 7,900 for Kennedy, actually. So Kennedy could be a sneaky play there because you might need some of those lower salary guys.
All right.
Next up, we have Mark Diakasi at -190 versus Rafael Alves at +160. This is a lightweight fight. Where'd you go on this one?
I ended up choosing Diakasi on this one. He's 14-4. He's coming off of a decision loss against Fiziev back in July. He's got 6 KOs, 7 decisions. He averages 2.23 takedowns per 15 minutes. Most of his fights go to decision, however. I don't feel like he, finishes very many guys, but he at least shows that he can go the distance. And then on the other hand, you have Alves, who is 19-10, not the best record. He's coming off of a decision loss to Ismagulov back in May during his debut. He's got 7 KOs, 7 submissions, and 5 decisions. I ended up going with Diakase, or I can't pronounce that name.
I got you.
On this one, I think he's going to string it out just like he has with a lot of his other wins, and he's going to win by decision here.
Yeah, I went Diakasi as well. Definitely the more experienced guy in the UFC. His debut was all the way back in 2016. He's had a tough time getting any type of streak going, but he's fought in some pretty tough competition. So I'm taking him here on DFS. He's going about 8,700. I would probably stay away from these guys. I mean, if you think Alves is going to win, then he'll be a solid pick at only 7,200. But I don't think Diakasi, even though he gets to win, I don't think he'll live up to the 8,700 price tag. Next up, we got a fight in the female flyweight division. We have Courtney Casey at -240 versus Liana Jojua at +195. Where were you going on this one?
So this was kind of tough for me because both fighters really haven't had a ton of success, especially when you look at both of their records. Casey is 9-9. Jojua is 8-4. Again, not the best records for either of them. Casey is coming off of a decision loss to Aldridge back in May. She originally debuted back in 2015, so she's been in the UFC for a little while now, but hasn't really been very consistent, I feel. She's got 3 knockouts, 4 submissions, and 2 decisions. All 7 of her finishes, so the 4 submissions and 7 KOs, though, have occurred in the first round. On the other hand, so Jojua is 8-4. She's coming off of that TKO loss to Maverick back in October of last year. She originally debuted back in 2019 and has only won 1 of her first 3 fights here in the UFC. Both of those losses coming by TKO. So I ended up going with Casey on this one, even though, neither of them have the best records, but I think she might come out on top on this one.
Yeah, so our first disagreement here, I went Jojua, but this was a very hard one for me to do. Like you pointed out, Casey, 99. She's 5-8 since joining the UFC. 4 wins by submission, 2 of them being by armbar. Then you have Jojua, 1-2, like you said. But Sarah Morris and Miranda Maverick are pretty legit. They're up and comers in the division, so I don't think those losses are like anything to snub your nose at.
Right.
And I think Jojua will have the edge on the ground. I really do. So I went with her, the sizable underdog. Should be a solid DFS pick if you agree with me at only 7,400. Casey is up there at 8,800, but it sounds like you think she might get the finish early. So if she's
I don't know about getting the finish early. It is impressive that all of her early stoppages have been in the first round.
Yeah, so all of her wins have been over 80 points. So at 8,800, if she can get a finish early, it would be worth it if you think she can do it.
Yeah, again, tough one. It can really go either way, so this is going to be a flip of a coin for this one. This is probably going to
Yeah,
be one of
that's a
those.
lot of the fights.
This is probably going to be one of those deciding fights on who wins this week.
Yeah. Next up, we have a featherweight fight. Sean Woodson, one of the bigger favorites of the card at -335, versus Colin Anglin at +260. I'm surprised to see the odds this much of a gap, but what do I know? Woodson coming off a split decision win in June, got a contract on Contender Series in 2019. He's gone 2-1. Anglin lost his UFC debut to Meslet Bagdasaryan in July.
Who just screwed me over last week, by the way.
Yes, he did. Woodson, a solid boxer. His game plan will be to try to keep Anglin at the distance and pick him apart, be more technical.
Mm-hmm.
Anglin, he's more the guy to come forward with pressure, and he's willing to absorb some shots to get in there and land some of his own. He has a really strong chin. He's not one to be finished, except against Bagdasaryan, so that didn't work out for him. But Bagdasaryan is also a very strong striker with 5 of 7 wins coming by KO. Anglin does have the advantage with the grappling and the takedowns. But he also has shown some cardio issues in the past, so you gotta wonder if that's gonna hold up. So I actually went Woodson here. I took Woodson.
All right, second disagreement. So I ended up picking Anglin. I know Woodson, his nickname is the Sniper because, like you said, he kind of likes to choose his shots and all that kind of stuff. But I think that the more aggressive fighter wins here, which you kind of already spoke of Anglin as being the come at you kind of person. So I'm going to go with Anglin. Again, it's going to be up to whether Woodson can handle that kind of pressure and keep him at a distance.
Yeah, and if you guys agree with Casey and think that Anglin's going to get the win, he is a solid DFS pick at only 7,000. Woodson is the second most expensive DFS player this week at 9,200. I think I stay away from him at that high of a price tag, because like I said, I think this is going to be a lot closer than what the odds predict.
Mm-hmm.
So next up, we got another female flyweight fight. We got Cynthia Calvillo versus Andrea Lee. Calvillo is on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to Caitlin Chukagian and Jessica Andrade. She lost to Jessica Andrade just this December by first round KO, so it's a quick turnaround coming off a knockout loss. She took this fight on kind of late notice, October 19th, so like 4.5 weeks. Andrea Lee was on a 3-fight losing streak before she got a submission victory over Antonio Shevchenko in May. So what are your thoughts on this one?
So again, this is another kind of toughie for me. Calvillo is on a 2-fight losing streak. She, I think, has more overall success in the UFC so far than Lee does. When you're looking at Lee, she kind of she debuted back in 2018. She kind of came into the UFC on fire by winning her first 3 fights, and since then it's kind of been like a hot and cold streak with her. So it was kind of difficult, but I did end up going with her. I ended up choosing Lee, winning by decision here. She has fought 7 times. I thought this was interesting. 7 times in the last 3 years since basically her debut, which is a decent amount of fights. So
I'm busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. On DFS, Andrea Lee at only 8,000, with Calvillo at 8,200. So pretty much you can almost flip flop them. I think Lee's a solid pick if you think she's gonna win at only 8,000. Put up over 100 points against Antonio Shevchenko in May. So she could be a solid DFS pick. Next up, I think this may have been the hardest or second hardest fight for me to predict, even though the odds show a pretty moderate favor. You have Thiago Moises at -240 versus Joel Alvarez at +195. This is in the lightweight division. What were your thoughts on this one?
So Moises is coming off of that submission loss to Makhachev back in July. Can't really blame him there. Makhachev
Yep.
just put Dan Hooker to shame. He's been putting everybody to shame, and nobody wants to fight him because of it. He has won 4 of his first 7 fights since his debut back in 2018. He's won 3 of his last 4, which is pretty good. He's got 3 knockouts, 5 submissions, and 7 decisions. Alvarez is coming off of his submission win over Yakovlev back in October of last year. Originally debuted back in 2019 and has won 3 of his last 4 fights. 3 of those coming by early stoppage. He is on that 3-fight win streak. So, and he also has 12 first-round finishes, so that's pretty good. That's pretty impressive there. So I ended up going with Alvarez on this one.
Well, the Alvarez, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for me, Alvarez's game plan is pretty straightforward. His goal is to take you down and submit you. 16 of his 18 wins have come by submission. Moises does have a 60% takedown defense and has only been submitted by once, and that was by Makhachev.
Right.
So I think Moises needs to keep this standing, and I think if it stays standing, he'll be able to get the win. He is known for shooting for leg locks and trying to severe leg locks, so he needs to not do that, or else he's going to get in trouble. So I think he needs to keep it standing, but I went with Thiago Moises here. On the flip side, though, if you're someone that is thinking Casey's line, Alvarez getting a submission win at only 7,200 on DFS, that's a solid pick. Moises is on the upper end at 9,000. I don't think I take him for 9,000. So Alvarez could be a live dog if you're feeling it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna come down to that classic whether or not the wrestler can get the takedown.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, we got kicking off the main card, bantamweight fight. We have Song Yadong at -130 versus Julio Arce at +110. Song's coming off a split decision win over Casey Kenny in August. Been in the UFC since 2017. It's pretty impressive how experienced he is for how young he is. I think he's only like 23, but he already has like 24 professional fights. So what were your thoughts on this one?
So again, coming off of that decision win over Kenny back in August, he fought a good fight. He's been pretty successful in the UFC since his debut in 2017. He has 6 knockouts, 3 decisions, and 6 knockouts, 3 submissions, and 8 decisions. He has 6 first-round finishes. Julio Arce at 17-4. He's coming off of that TKO win against Ewell back in July. Originally debuted back in 2017. Has won about half of his fights so far in the UFC. When you look at both of these guys, as far as striking goes, their strikes landed compared to absorbed per minute are pretty similar, with Yadong at 4.35 landed to 3.64 absorbed, and then Arce's 4.31 landed to 2.94 absorbed. But I ended up going with Yadong on this one, winning by decision. I think he's been doing good in the UFC, and he's coming off of a good win against Casey Kenny.
Yeah, Yadong's a very skilled fighter. He's pretty well-rounded everywhere. I think he's faced stronger competition than Arce. Arce definitely still has the potential to KO him, but Yadong's also never been finished, and I just don't see it happening, so I went Yadong as well. Next up, we got a banger of a fight. Miguel Beza at -145 versus Chaos Williams at +125. This is going to be a welterweight fight. Beza 10-1, earned a contract on the Contender Series. He's gone 3-1 in the UFC. His last fight being a loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio. Chaos coming off a decision win over Matt Semmelsberger back in June. He's gone 3-1 in the UFC as well. Both guys finished their fights, and both guys have never been finished. So it'll definitely be an interesting fight. Who do you got on this one?
So yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tough fight. Neither guy has been finished before. It's tough. It's tough. I think, like you said, it's going to be a banger of a fight. And I went with Beza on this one.
Yeah. My biggest concern here. So I picked Chaos Williams in this one. But my biggest concern is Chaos Williams does a very traditional boxing stance where he's kind of heavy on that lead leg. Beza's known for using his leg kicks.
Yep.
So I'm going to hope that Chaos is prepared for that. And I'm going to go Chaos here. But if the fight starts and Beza comes out and starts landing those leg kicks, it's going to get ugly for Chaos Williams very quickly.
Yeah, those leg kicks have been a major factor, especially in recent years. Fighters are starting to use that more to, kind of hinder people's movements, especially the guys that like to move around a lot and put pressure on you.
Yeah,
it's been proven to be a great tool. So yeah, if he starts landing those leg kicks, man, it could be bad news for Williams.
Yeah. You have Beza at 8,500, Chaos Williams at 7,700. Both are decent pits, pretty middle down to the cheaper end. Depending on who you think is going to get the win here. My camera just shut off for a minute there. Next up, we have a featherweight women's bout. Felicia Spencer at -310 versus Leah Letson at +245. Spencer's on a 2-fight losing streak, lost by decision to Nunez, and recently to Dumont by split decision this past May. Leston hasn't fought since 2018. She was in the Ultimate Fighter season 28. She was scheduled for 2 separate fights in 2019, but had to withdraw from both of those. She was having a lot of medical issues going on.
Yeah,
she's coming in.
I was gonna ask you some questions about that because it says, she fought against Storolenko in 2018, but it also said that it debuted in like November of this year. So I was wondering what happened between 2018 and now, where was she removed from the UFC for a little while? Like what happened there?
I'm not sure exactly what happened, but she was a contestant on season 28 of The Ultimate Fighter. She fought in that finale, which was technically, that would be her first UFC fight, kind of. But not really, because it was still part of the show. And then her 2 fights that were in 2019, she had to withdraw from both of those. She was having like some digestive thyroid issues or something. So I went with Spencer here. She's gone 20 minutes with Amanda Nunez and Chris Cyborg and wasn't finished by either of them. Fighting Leston, who only has 1 fight in the UFC against another contender on the Ultimate Fighter, I think, with a 3-year layoff. So I'm going to take Felicia Spencer here.
Yeah, I ended up choosing Spencer as well on this one. I think she strings it out and wins by decision.
Yep. Spencer, 9,100 on DFS. A little bit pricey, but if you think she can get the finish, it'd be worth it. But if it just goes to decision, I don't think it's going to be worth the price tag. Next up, we have our co-main event at heavyweight. You have Ben Rothwell at -155 versus Marcus Rogerio de Lima at +135. What were your thoughts on this one?
So Rothwell's kind of a vet. He's 40 years old. He's been in the UFC for a while now.
Since 2009.
Yeah, that's
insane.
That's a while.
I was still in high school.
We both were. But his most recent win came by submission when he fought Barnett, who had that impressive win with that wheel kick last week.
Spinning wheel kick?
Insane. Yeah. Absolutely insane. So to have a win against someone like Barnett, is kind of a good thing to have on your resume. But when you go through his fights that he had previously, it kind of looks like he hasn't been too consistent. He does have 28 knockout wins and 7 submissions and 4 decisions. He has that 39-13 record, which really isn't that bad overall, like speaking. This dude's been in over 50 fights. And then on the other hand, you got De Lima. He's 36 years old, so he's kind of up there too. Made his debut back in 2014. So again, someone who's been around for a little while now. He's 18-8. Got those 13 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 3 decisions. I actually ended up going with Rothwell on this one.
Yeah, I went Rothwell as well. But like you said, 13 losses, but then when you look at some of the people that some of those losses came to, so you had him fighting like Junior Dos Santos back in 2016, Mark Hunt back in 2011, Cain Velasquez in 2009. So, I mean, he's fought in some tough guys. And it was also worth noting that, so Lima has lost 5 fights in the UFC. All of them have come by some sort of choke submission, whether it be a Darce choke, triangle choke, some type of submission that involved a choke. Rothwell is able to do submissions. I mean, he's got 13 submission victories. So I went with the guy with the crazy experience of submission wins, and I took Rothwell as well.
All right. Now on to our main event.
Yeah, so we got Max Holloway at negative 720 versus Yair Rodriquez at plus 500. Holloway put on a clinic versus Calvin Kattar back in January, I think it was.
Yep.
Put up amassed like over 200 points in DFS. I think he's probably just going to dominate this fight and will probably need to be in your DFS lineup. Yair Rodriquez, I mean, he lost to Frankie Edgar back in 2017, but prior to that, he was on a pretty serious, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He was on a 6-fight win streak before running into Frankie Edgar in 2017, beating guys like Dan Hooker, Andre Fili, Alex Casares, BJ Penn.
So pretty good resume.
Frankie Edgar. Yeah, lost to Frankie Edgar, but then came back and went on and has won his last 2 versus fought Jeremy Stevens in 2019, and then also defeated the Korean Zombie just prior to that. So he's fought some legit guys, but I just don't think it's going. I just don't. Max Holloway's a whole different. I feel like you have Alex Volkanovski and Max Holloway, and then a huge gap and like everybody else.
Yeah. So, like you said, I think Max is just a whole nother level. Again, coming off of that striking clinic in his last fight, he landed 447 total strikes and landed 60%. So that 447 was of 746, which is absolutely insane. So
yeah.
he's always been a pretty decent striker, but in that fight, he just put on an absolute clinic. He's coming off of that really good win, and I think he's gonna come out again and put on another good show for us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's just going to be a clinic by Holloway. It'll be interesting what Rodriguez comes out and does, but I'm not foreseeing a huge upset here. And then real quick for everybody, I'll run through a quick DFS that I kind of put together prior to this episode. Hate it, love it, I don't care. Just, maybe think of it when you're making your decision. So took Max Holloway at 9,500. Like I said, I think he needs to be in your lineup just because of how dominant his last fight was. Then took Chaos Williams at 7,700. We talked about him and his finishing ability a little bit there, and just such a cheap option. Then we went Andrea Lee at 8,000. She was pretty neck and neck with Calvillo, so you could probably go either one at that middle range, depending on who you think will win. Next, I tried Sonya Don at 8,400 versus Julio Arce. Then Mark Diakisi at 8,700 versus Alves. And then went on the cheaper end with what money I had left and went Liana Jojua versus Casey at 7,400. And that is it. You probably don't have a lineup for us, do you?
I don't. But
all right, next time. So
next time.
Thanks for listening. We'll get our picks up on our Instagram fit page and Twitter page. Feel free to give us a follow at both of those. You can find them under at Garbage Time MMA. We put our picks up the day of the fights, as well as just kind of keep you posted throughout the fight card, and we'll put our episodes there as well. You can find us on Spotify, all those places, and also on our website with our sister podcast, GarbageTimeFF.com. And I think that is all we got. Anything from you, Casey?
Nope. We'll see if I can get a win this week.
Probably not. But all right, thanks for listening, everybody. Out.